My name's Andy Tomison. I was and still am part of a partnership with a school in Malawi and our school in Ochterada, and we got involved in planning a trip out there in 2018, and we used the 90 kilogram race challenge, the Kilombero Rice here, as the challenge for the trip in 2018, so that we could raise some funds for taking pupils out there, so that we could join up with our other school out there and spend a week together and then a week in Malawi. But that was how I got interested in the rice, and since then I've tried to encourage any other schools in Perthshire that want to do the 90 kilogram race challenge. I can go in and support them and encourage them and help the kids to understand how it's grown and why it's fair trade, and why it's a great thing to do. And I do that as part of my going into schools as a fair trade lesson. So sometimes I focus purely on the 90 kilogram race challenge, and other times it's fair trade, and that's been part of it along with the other fair trade products.
Now, you've actually been to Malawi, so you've had a bit of an experience about the country. Has that helped you kind of get a stronger message across, do you think?
Well, I've been to Malawi 3 times, and it's always been the Central Belt, and so I picked up some incorrect points about the rice that I was able to put right when I recently met Howard, the rice farmer, because coming from the Central Belt, Malawi, where I'd been, I never saw any rice. So I kind of assumed that rice was there just as a cash crop, and it was sold to Scotland, and Malawians didn't eat it. But it turned out Howard put me right on that one, so I'm much more familiar on that. But I just know that I'll need to visit the north someday if I'm actually going to go up and see the rice being grown up in the north. So.
When you're in schools, do the pupils, do they get the message? Are they interested?
Well, I generally go into 2 secondary schools, and the rest has been sort of top end of primary. And I mean, they don't know how rice is grown. They're certainly not very familiar with where it comes from. But by the end of it, I go through the whole sort of growing process and the work required, and why it's a fair trade is important in all the production of that. So that's just, I think hopefully I've helped them. We always start with chocolate because that's slightly more interesting than for the pupils initially, to draw them in before we go on to rice. But I think most pupils have tried rice, and so they've all got some idea of what it tastes like, and then we do some activities and things based around rice to try and sort of make them think a bit more about it.
So when you go into a school, are you in and out, or is it quite a...
I usually do an afternoon. It seems to be that's the sort of most popular way. So I go in and do an afternoon, and we do a few games, which to try and get them to think about what the word fair means in their context, and then develop it onto some rice. And then there's rice tasks, and there's some mathematics. As being an ex-mathematics teacher, there's some mathematics involved in I can get involved in with the rice and other activities like that.
So how do you kind of get the notion that, well, the difference between the fair trade and non-fair trade across them?
Well, the main activity, I think, is just getting them to think about being fair, and we play a game with biased dice, and help them to, which they don't recognise until the end, and then I try and sort of show them what would happen, the difference between somebody who's supported by fair trade and somebody or a group of farmers who aren't supported, and what the difference would be. And I also try and relate it to the difference between a Malawian child and a Scottish child, and just the differences that they have from the word go, being born in one country compared with the other, and the good and bad in both sides. So.
I mean, a lot of people, our purse strings have been tightened these days, and maybe the idea of doing a 90 kilogram challenge, buying 90 kilograms of rice, might be quite a daunting thing.
Yes, to sell 90 kilograms of rice is quite a daunting feat, especially in some of the very much smaller schools in Perthshire. But they don't have to sell 90 kilograms. That's a nice focus to talk about the 90 kilograms and what that means to the farmer. But if they can sell 45 kilograms or 40 kilograms, the school I've been in most in Perthshire is the smallest school in Perthshire, and they have done, I think they've done 3 challenges, and they haven't been 90 kilograms because that is a lot to sell when there's only maybe 20 odd pupils in the school. But they can have a go at it, and they can taste the wonderful rice, which is really half the point of it, as can their families, and hopefully teach them about why it's fair trade and what difference it's made to the farmers.
Do you enjoy the rice? This is on a kind of a side.
Oh yes, I think the rice is fantastic, and although when I first, I think it was 2017, we first started it, I followed the rules of the package exactly. I've since then become a lot more cavalier in using it for paella and all sorts of other uses, and doing it in my own way. And when we had Howard with us, he told us how they do it in Malawi, so that was a wee bit different again. So it's good to hear all the other ways that it can be used in products, and it is definitely a fantastically tasty, good rice. So yeah, all my family enjoy it.
So what would you say to any teachers, schools, anybody in fact that might want to do their bit?
Often teachers have started the Rice Challenge because they're doing a project on Malawi. And the 2 secondaries have done the Rice programme more of a sort of understanding of commerce and selling as an activity for a group, but then being able to relate it to the sort of fair trade aspect of it. And so they've done it that way, and then others have done it simply just as a fundraiser for their school, whatever a project that they might be doing, either as a fair trade project or just as a school project.
So you would advise folk to just give it a go?
Absolutely, yes. Give it a go, and I mean, you don't need to, as you say, sell the 90 kilograms. We can discuss it and get you what you think you can sell, and go from there. And we can take some back if it wasn't sold, and use it elsewhere. So there's lots of openings for being able to do smaller challenges, or even more challenges, because there are some schools who started with one and gone on to a second one once they realised that, especially at parents' nights, I think they've underestimated how much they can sell at a parents' night, and just make a reasonable amount of money for a project, whether it be for Malawi or for fair trade or for just the school fund.